This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Dave, you weren't kidding when you said we had 10 seconds left. You know what's really fun? As a person behind the microphone, I get to chat with our producer, Dave, in Minnesota. And before every broadcast, we spend a couple minutes chatting about, what's new and things that are happening in our lives. And it's a really great time in my life to spend those few precious minutes with our producer, Dave. So Dave and I were chatting, and he said, we got 10 seconds. I got to go. So off we went, and here we are. And we're broadcasting live from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Bliss? So your dial is set correctly to USAPrepares.com. And there's a link to all of your instructors on the website, USAPREPARES.com. Podcasts right here on Genesis are absolutely free. Today, we're going to discuss survival economics with Frank Underhill. And Frank Underhill is the CEO of UndernhillSecurities.com, UndernhillSecurities.com. I wanted to share with you, you've got a meetup tonight, 5:30, Ziggy's in Springfield. We're going to talk about raising bees inside and outside the city limits. Bees for pollinating fruit trees, vegetables, and other plants. Bees for food. And I'm working on a few short videos that I'd like to bring with me tonight. And if I'm successful, you'll get a chance to see them. Meet up tonight. Information's on the website. And, I just heard on the news that the IRS blames low-level employees for targeting conservatives. That's really simple. Here's all you do. Just fire the director of the IRS and his lieutenants. All of them. Fire them all. That would send a message that we've had it. We have had it with the government overreach. We've had it with the government abuses. We've had it with the government lies. We've had it. They need to be fired right now. Right now. Just as we need to fire the director of the Department of Revenue and his lieutenants. He actually resigned in Missouri for giving out our concealed weapons information to the federal departments. Agencies. Yep. Breach of trust. And whenever there's a breach of trust, the top people need to go. And their lieutenants, all of them. And you know what that would do? Glass, if we eject and fire without any pensions, people for breaching the public trust, and we fire the lieutenants will look upward in the chain of command and they'll say, wait a minute, don't do that. You're going to get us all fired. Don't do that. You'll get us all fired. Then maybe we might have some checks and balances that would work for America. Welcome, Frank Underhill.
Good morning, Vincent. Glad to be with you this morning.
I just had to say that about the IRS. The IRS has been, for years and years and years, they've been all over me. And they would follow me from coast to coast, and they would audit me. And, they never found anything that they thought they could use. But I'll tell you what, if you are a real estate investor, oh, my gosh, those guys are all over you like white on rice. And, and it's all perfectly legal to take deductions hey, Congress writes the rules, okay? And if you just follow the rules, they want to inspect and detect you. Frank, I want to share something with you. Since we're talking about the IRS, many years ago, Mrs. Finelli and I were audited. We get audited many, many times, but just one of those memorable moments, we were audited and we were hauled in for a complete audit. And they didn't tell us why. And when the IRS audits you, they don't say, oh, listen, here's why we're auditing you. It's always a surprise. And they like to hold all the cards, just like any other government agency. They like to be in control. And this is a time when one of those government employees has your life in their hands for the duration of the audit, or so they would like to think. Well, we got asked a whole bunch of questions and produced a whole bunch of receipts, and you were asked why we took certain deductions and so forth. And I always do the same thing. I have my notes written in the margins on Publication 17. In class, I recommend you download Publication 17. It's the condensed rule book. You can get it off the internet. Download Publication number 17, Publication 17. And so I always write my interpretation of what they're trying to tell me in these rules in the margins on the right on the publication itself. And so when I file my taxes in my own personal folders for review later on when I get audited, I just pull out what I remember my notes being, because it's written down in the margins on Publication 17 for that particular tax year. Okay, so we get audited and we get asked all these questions, and finally, at the end of the audit, or near the end of the audit, the auditor says to me, okay, what about the charitable deductions? And I said, it's right here. And he says, okay, it's $500, 0.00, $500 even. And I pull out all the receipts, the church, and this was in the 80s, 1980s, so $500 was worth a little bit more back then. And so it was canceled checks from going to church, paying putting a check in the collection plate, and a little bit to the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and so forth, and it added up to 500.00. Exactly. Well, that's why I was audited. At the end of the audit, he said, okay, you're all set. Yep, everything you said is right. And by the way, do you know why you're audited? And I said, no clue. He said, well, your tax deductions of $500 seem suspicious, because it was $500. Not 501, 0.21, or not 492.86. It was $500 even. And they were, because the amounts that I wrote out were even amounts on the checks. No more do I write even amounts for anything. Nothing. I don't even pump gas on an even amount. I don't round up to the dollar. It's always an odd amount. Everything I do is an odd amount now, no matter what. Interesting? What do you think, Frank?
Well, the audit, because the government is so low on cash right now, they are looking at any ways to generate revenue. And actually, I think it's even a deficit, because how much would it cost them to send that auditor out to you and to collect what?
Well, he collected nothing. He literally.
How much do you think it cost to send them?
Well,
so why didn't he just stay at home, watch Super Bowl, or spend time with his kids, or do crochet or something? And this is why the country is basically circling the drain right now. Is because you have the dog chasing the tail. Whether
interesting.
It's just been, interesting. Whether they talk about the Benghazi thing, where the people, it happened. What can you say? Then they talk about the taxing patriot groups. Like Vincent, I hope they're not going to be looking at you or me or what we do here, because we're basically like-minded free speech people. But putting a tax on, wanting to tax them, and they're so desperate right now that they'll resort to anything to collect revenue.
Hey, Frank, it's not a question of if. They're coming. They're going to be over here, and I know what's going to happen. They're going to audit me. And I'm going to say, okay, listen, I'm just going to clear off a spot for you right here in the studio, and because they're going to spend a couple days with me, I know they are, and so I'm going to clear off a spot. And Lee Wickenhauser of Genesis Communications Network said to me months and months ago. He said, "Vinny, listen, why don't we have a video of you on the, like Alex Jones, so people can see what you do, behind the microphone. So we'll have a video of you and we'll stream it live, on GCN. And I said, I can barely talk behind the microphone, let alone be on video, So, and I'm really busy and I'm racing around the studio during the commercials. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. So I don't think it'd be horrible, So, but what I'll do is I will take him up on that suggestion. So when I get audited, what I'll do is I'll have a video camera, and I'll aim it not at me, but at the guy at the next desk over from me while I'm being audited. I'll say, yeah, we can do that. Now, I got to work though, during the audit. So, we'll do this, but you're going to be on TV.
You need to video and document everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stream it live,
For when they do show up. Because they're going to come with guns, they're going to come with badges, they're going to come in blue suits and striped ties, and...
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll
it's really unfortunate, actually.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's intimidation. That's what they do. And when we had... we were audited one time, and we were hauled in, and we got off the elevator, and you wait there, and then they say, okay, wait right here, and then they get their guy, and he comes out, and he says, and he's grumpy. I mean, he's already got his arms crossed, and he's all ready for you. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. He just got there, He just had his cup of coffee. He's getting ready to go to work, and hasn't done anything all day. It's 10 o'clock, and then he's ready. He's ready to get you, and he tells you he's going to get you. That's what they do. And I was thinking over the weekend. You kind of hit my button here, Frank. I was thinking over the weekend. I was doing some farm therapy, which means I was walking around the farm, and actually Mrs. Finelli and our son and I put up about maybe a third or a half a mile of fencing, temporary fencing, and we moved the cows from one field to another. And so as we're putting this fencing in, I get time to think about some of the things that are going on. And I was thinking about, why is it that guns are not allowed in government offices? And I think the reason is really simple. And I'll tell you what I think it is when we come back. Why are guns not allowed in government offices? Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli, USAPreparedness.com. We'll be right back. My favorite subject, the government. I was thinking, why are guns, over the weekend, I was doing some farming, why don't they allow guns in these public buildings? And if you think about it, who really wants to be in a government office, okay? You get hauled in there because you need to renew your driver's license or the tags on your vehicle or to pay your taxes. Is it ever pleasant? Is it really ever pleasant? They're hauling you in. You've got to do something for them. Not for you, for them. And you might think that you're getting your driver's license renewed for them, but you have to have a driver's license because they say so, not because you said, hey, what a great, I want to carry this thing around with me and make sure I have it so that when they stop me, I have all that I need. It's because they demand that you have these things. They demand that you have ID. They demand that you go in once a year or every 2 years to register your vehicle and so forth. So I think the reason that they don't want you to have a gun is because not everybody's happy when they go into a government office because you're being hauled in there pretty much against your will. I mean, I don't know anybody who says, hey, I don't know, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you want to do? Hey, let's go into a government office and let's have some fun, and we'll stand in line and we'll probably end up in the wrong line. And by the time we get to the clerk there, they'll tell us, no, you're in the wrong line. So then we'll get to wait and get in another line. And then the clerk will say, no, you need more ID. You don't have enough ID. So then you have to go back home, get the ID that you need to get because they didn't tell you what you needed. So you get there and then they tell you, okay, now it's X amount of dollars. So I think the reason that you're not allowed to have a gun in a public building is because they know you're not happy with being there. And they're afraid that somebody might take it out on them. I think that's probably why. Now, the question is, you're not allowed to have a gun in a public building, but do they have guns in public buildings? I think they do. Think about that. In a lot of cases, they do. Frank, had a very interesting experience this weekend and last weekend. I was installing the equipment for our satellite receiver. And Rick's satellite, I purchased a satellite receiver from him so I could listen to Galaxy 19, because we are now broadcasting live 2 hours a day on satellite radio, Galaxy 19. And class, if you'd like to listen, the information's on the website as to how you can listen to usaprepares.com on Galaxy 19 satellite radio. Anyway, I purchased it, and I needed to aim the dish antenna, the parabolic reflector, toward the satellite up about 45 degrees, and in my location of the world, azimuth was about 184 degrees magnetic. Anyway, so I take the iPhone out there, and I'm walking around the farm, and my iPhone goes blank. I lose the compass. I thought, what happened? So I power the application off, restart the application, and the compass just has a blank dial. No indication of direction or pointer. So I power off the iPhone, power it back on, and sure enough, the compass comes back and goes away. So our son was with me yesterday, and I said, let's try your iPhone. So his iPhone had a compass for about a minute, and then it went away. Now, what the heck is going on our farm where the iPhone application, the compass, does not work? Am I the only one who's experiencing this with two separate iPhones in the same location? Is it our location? Is something happening here at the farm that is causing the iPhone compass to fail on two phones? As a matter of fact, when I moved when it was working for a couple minutes, or a couple seconds, I should say, it was unstable. I could point the phone, and I know the indication was way off. It was off like 20%. So, has this happened to you, or is it just me? And I'd love to know. And let me give you the number. I'd love to hear what you think about the compass and the iPhone. Are you having the same problem I am? 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Toll free. We'll be right back. Frank Underhill's with us, and we're talking about taxes. We're talking about the IRS. And Frank, I'm looking at gold. Gold is $1434.90. Silver's at $23.73. Let's talk about gold. What's happening?
Well, I don't think investors have thrown in the towel on gold yet, and I think people are still. And you got to remember, people are still buying here. A lot of these companies are doing internal restructuring. They're looking at ways to maximize profits with a lower cost of gold. Barrick Gold last week announced they raised a substantial amount of money. Gold Corp is taking measures. And, then if you look at the low hedge miners, they are doing okay. But what you're seeing here is not a mining or gold collapse per se. It's a high dollar that is the cause of this, because gold is, the equilibrium, and the dollar moves around the gold. But there is some positive news on the dollar front. It's like the dollar seems to be at this resistance level here. And if the dollar, I think, has a hard time even, breaking through it, maybe this might be the beginning of a drift in the dollar. And, the Federal Reserve, of course, is pumping billions of dollars every month into these markets, and when you have them, pumping in money every month, they got to take their money out sometime. So I think it's just a matter of a waiting game right now.
So, Frank, when people look at these numbers and they look at gold down and they look at silver down, are you suggesting that they just stay put, or are you suggesting that they buy or sell?
Actually, I'm a little bit more bullish than that. I think people should take a look at them and enter trepidly. Would I be selling? Probably not. I haven't had like a big rush to the exit doors yet. People are patient. But you got to also remember, too, when you buy this kind of a investment, you got to be in it for duration. And, you look at the gold chart, of course, we can go back 10 years, it's on duration. We can look at any chart, it's duration. It's like somebody having coins. Are they going to buy them 1 week and then sell them the next, or bullion for that matter? They should be treated the same way.
Frank, I heard an opinion on the air. Someone said that silver, the question was, silver has a premium right now, a pretty high premium. And, if you look at the premium on silver, it was about 20%. Makes sense to me, because why would anybody want to sell their silver at $23.73 an ounce, $24 an ounce? I certainly wouldn't want to, and I won't. Well, the question to a host was, will that premium just ever go away completely, and will silver just go to the metal value without premium? And I was absolutely shocked what I heard. I heard the host say, yeah, it's just going to go right to the metal value, the premium will disappear. I couldn't believe it. Makes no sense to me.
Well, the premium is high because the price of silver is low, and I think we said this on a few programs back, that the premium the premium remains the same. Again, the price is constant. The price of the metal itself goes up and down, and of course, the lower the silver goes, the higher naturally the premium is going to be. And then, of course, reverse is opposite. When silver is, say, $35, $40 an ounce, the premium, people don't care. It's irrelevant, except that it is very inexpensive right now. And that's why you have these high premiums. Remember, when everyone's making money, no one cares about the premium. But when it's like this, or if somebody is going to want to even buy with a low silver price, they're going to want to buy. Well, yeah, they're going to question the premium, because it's actually, in my word, it's exorbitant. And and that might even be deterring sales. So if somebody's going to do this, you try to buy in bulk and negotiate on the premium.
Frank, at a meetup, I said this on the air, and I'll share it again. At a meetup, I said, I'm sure some of you are concerned about the price of silver, because a lot of the people who come to the meetups have moved out of Federal Reserve notes into precious metals, because they believe that at some point in the near future that the Federal Reserve notes will either be there'll be a bank holiday, which is not a holiday, it's a closing of the bank, where you can't access your funds. They believe that could happen, or they could believe that there'll be a revaluation of the Federal Reserve notes, or there'll be a suspension of transactions or something. And they want to make sure that they are not caught with their digits being held in a bank, and something like Cyprus happening, where there's a 10% haircut, nope, 20, nope, 30, 40, nope, 60. They want to make sure that does not happen to them by some nameless, faceless group of individuals called a government. Well, so what I said at the meetup was, I'll tell you what, silver's down, and I know some of you are concerned about that. So, but I'm not, because I'm not a seller. And until you sell, you don't take a loss. Well, I said, I'll tell you what, I'll buy all the silver that you want to sell right now. If any of you want to sell silver, I'll buy all of it at $24. No takers. I said, okay, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And the roar that you heard during me reading off those numbers was the same exact response we got at the meetup. Nothing. No one wanted to sell silver at $30 an ounce when the market price was $24 because they believed that their silver was worth over $30 an ounce. And it is. It is. So that's what happened. And the reason I share these stories with you on the air is because, class, those of us at the meetup are just like you. We're just like you. And I want to share our opinions with you so that you know that you are not alone. You're not alone in your thinking. You're not alone in being concerned about the price, the manipulated price of metals. The Dow was over 15,000. When I've said it many times. When I studied
the Dow was over 15,000 because, as I said in the earlier segment, you're having the government just pumping billions and billions of dollars into this. I don't call this a retail-driven rally. More or less, it is an institutionally driven rally. Big difference.
Well, that's a really great point, Frank, because seriously, in 1971 through 1978, when I studied finance and economics formally, I was taught that in order to generate a profit, companies had to have customers. They had to have customers. And I can't... Who are the customers? Who are the customers of these businesses? What are people buying? Have you tried to buy a toaster oven that's made in the United States of America? Okay. How about a toaster? How about a blender? How about a television? How about a camera? Can you buy any small appliance? Any small appliance made in the United States of America? One. Can you buy one? I don't know of one. I really don't know of one. Do you?
Well, everything like that building collapse in Bangladesh where they make clothes. Mm-hmm. I bet you that city, wherever that factory is loaded with buildings like that, just time bombs waiting to go off.
You're talking about the cost of the infrastructure. Their cost is shoddy and is not anywhere near as sound and as well engineered and as well as constructed as we have in this country. So therefore, their cost of production, their cost of labor, and the lack of enforcement that they have from their government is so much lower, if at all, that we can't compete with them. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, and I'm also saying, your lack of, government oversight there. I think if you just take it on to the civil level, there's really no civil oversight there.
Yeah. I think you're right. Frank,
there's manuals that say how many bags of cement to water do you need to support this kind of weight.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
What kind of rebar? People think construction is just a miracle. You just look at it and it's being erected. But whether you're building a house or whether you're building a skyscraper, there's an exacting science in it. Everything from moisture to heating to engineering to structural to electric. It's an industry not for the faint of heart. But I think that we all have seen the price there. Now, can you imagine if that happened in where you live? I guess if there's some manufacturing, if a building collapsed and 1,000 people were killed, can you imagine what would happen if it was in Missouri or my state or California or Texas or anywhere else here? There'd be outrage.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Frank, when we built the farmhouse, I was here throughout, through the duration. I was gone a few times, but other than that, most of the time I was here. And when we were pouring concrete, I told the concrete company, normally they use 2,500 pound test concrete for concrete slabs, and then the next step up would be 3,000 pound. Then the next step up would be 3,500 pound. We poured 4,000 pound concrete. And the reason is much, much stronger. Much, much stronger. A little more expensive, but a lot stronger. And, once you put it in, it's in. And that's kind of the way I look at things. I look at things for the duration. And when we built our farmhouse, there's nothing showy and fancy here. It's plain, but it's really strong. I'm Vin Finelli, Frank Underhill, USAPrepares.com. We'll be right back. Class, I just I posted an email that I received from the freeze dry guy on the website. It's a tribute to mothers for Mother's Day. Mothers everywhere. And it's a very short email from the freeze dry guy, and it says, it's to my mother and my wife, and it said, I just want to wish you both a happy Mother's Day. And it says, yours truly, and it's signed. And I think it's so thought-provoking and so accurate and so true that you might want to read it. It's about what mothers do and how mothers teach us about being kind to people and not hurting people and being forgiving. Excellent. So I suggest that you consider reading it. It's page 1, USAPrepares.com. Frank Underhill's with us. So, Frank, the dollar is the problem, and it's being manipulated, and the Federal Reserve is buying securities, driving the price up. You don't even need to have customers to have the Dow go up. And I don't know if I mentioned this on the air, but years ago I went to Sears, and I bought a timing light, and it's one of these devices to use to tune an engine. And it allows you to determine where the ignition is firing at each spark plug with relationship to where the piston is in the travel of its stroke. Well, I used it once, put it away, and it failed. And I bought the top of the line one, the best one they had. I used it one time, put it back in the box, put it in the toolbox. The second time I went to use it, about a year later, it failed. Brought it back to Sears, and they said, "Well, it's out of warranty." And I said, "Yeah, just out of warranty." And it was, not much out of warranty. And they said, "Well, we'll give you a new one at 10% off." And I said, "Why would I want a new one? Why would I want to buy another one just like this one? And this one failed. Why don't you just?" By the way, didn't you guys? Isn't it satisfaction guaranteed to your money back? And so ultimately, I ended up talking to the manager. To make a long story short, and the manager said, "You don't know. You don't get it. You don't get it. Sears is not serving customers. Sears is in business for the benefit of the shareholders. The shareholders, not the customers. So the reason that Sears now exists is for the shareholders. And the CEOs of many, many corporations now are compensated not by how well their company is perceived, not by how many new products they have, but by the performance on the stock markets. So the idea is to manipulate the stock price as high as they can, exercise the stock options, and yield an enormous compensation as a result of stock prices. Frank?
I'm listening. It's you bring up an interesting point there, Vincent, and that's how I think a majority of businesses are now. They work for the stockholder and not for their customers. Whether I think they're selling coffee or hamburgers or automobiles or handheld devices, it's the same, and it only enriches then, of course, when things don't work out for the customer. Well, of course, they're the one footing the bill, i.e. through having to buy a new product, or the warranty expired, you're on your own, or if the warranty works, it doesn't cover this. It's basically a checkers game, and it's, and I just want your listeners to know this, that everything out there is almost like a payday loan. You go and you borrow $400, and in 3 months you're looking at $4,000 you're owing. Well, the same thing can be had about any of this stuff, and this is why I don't like to buy anything, really. I just like to be sparse, and if you don't have it, it can't break on you. My cell phone is like 5 years old. I've never had a problem with it. Would I get a new one? No. And actually, mine was a free phone when I got my service. A little Sanyo Vizio. I don't think they even make them anymore.
Well, I can't wait to get rid of my iPhone. I am not kidding. And Roy, I'm going to see Roy Birdsong tonight at the meetup, Choose Your Own Wireless, and I'm going to go for the real simple service. Prepaid, $80 a year. It's good enough for me. Frank Underhill, UnderhillSecurities.com. We'll be back, hour number 2, right after the top of the hour messages. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? This is hour number 2, USAPrepares.com. Frank Underhill's with us. We're talking about the economy. And we're talking about how is it possible that the Dow is doing so well, and where are the customers? It's a concern of mine. Frank, I've got some articles on the website that I'd like to talk about with you. One of them is 1/3 of the population of Puerto Rico is getting free food stamps from the United States government. It's unbelievable. We're supporting Puerto Rico. 1/3 of the people. We're feeding 1/3 of the people.
Amazing.
Absolutely outrageous. And then, oh boy, this one really bothers me. Eugenics. We have an American Eugenics Society here in the United States. And we are looking at, and we have for a very long time, we have been looking at, right after World War II, we looked at how to improve our gene pool, how to reproduce a better crop of humans through eugenics, killing people. Absolutely unbelievable. Articles on the website. And then there's another one that really bothers me, which is New Jersey state senators were caught on tape, or recorded, if you will. And they were saying, relating to guns, confiscate, confiscate, confiscate. These are New Jersey state senators that want our guns confiscated. Now, there are people who do not believe in conspiracies. A conspiracy is 2 or more people intending to do harm. Well, what does it mean when 2 or more people want to steal your property? Is that doing harm? Well, if it is, then that's a conspiracy. And we have 3 New Jersey senators who want to confiscate your firearms. They want to steal your personal property. Frank, we are in so much trouble, I can't believe it. I just can't believe it.
The governor of Arizona, I think, will sign a bill that when people, there are these firearm buyback programs in Arizona, and I think Dran Brewer's signing a bill where they can resell these firearms to raise money for the state.
The state is now in the gun show business then. That means that they're buying them back for pennies on the dollar. I mean, I've seen these piles and piles of firearms. I've seen AK-47s. I've seen semi-automatic MAC-10s, Tech 9s, hunting rifles, all kinds of firearms that are valuable that were bought back for maybe $50, $25, $100, gift certificates for stupid stuff. And these quality firearms were bought, and they're worth thousands of dollars, some of them each. Some of them are museum pieces. And so the government buys them, and now we're talking about the government selling them back?
Yeah, apparently so.
First of all, why are they in the business of being in the business of buying firearms in the first place? Why are they buying them? Who authorized it? And it's our money. It's the people's money. Now, I don't live in Arizona, but if I did, it would be my money. And if the state of Missouri did it, it would be my money, my government in Missouri. Outrageous. And I'll tell you what.
The trouble is, Vincent, is none of it is yours. And whenever you see the media, the managed media, it's like we all as a nation have to share in the grief and the misery of other people's lives, and there's enough of it to go around. And this is a big way to socialism, is when you have the government starting to spread the bad news, and then they spread the Boston bombing. Everybody has to come up with, they want people to cough up funds for some charity that they are running. Now, possibly, Vincent, how does a thing like that, or even these people with the fertilizer blast in Texas and whatnot, but they got to spread the misery. Because spread the misery, it set up the funding, people phone in, they donate. When, I believe charity starts at home for a lot of things. And I don't want to sound selfish or sanctimonious, but, that's the case. A lot of people are having a very difficult time right now. But when the weaker the economy gets, the more, like you hinted on, the Puerto Rican food stamp, or the who pays for all this. And instead of government looking after this stuff, they want people to whip out their checkbooks and donate money. And I just have a very, very uneasiness about the whole thing.
Well, it's I took some heat over my thoughts about the Boston Marathon massacre, and I thought it was an inside job. I really did from the very beginning. The minute I heard it, I even said it on the air, and I took some heat. From people at the afternoon broadcast, like, are you kidding? As a matter of fact, I was on the air, and I said, no, I think it's an inside job. And it caused a lot of problems for me at a radio station. It really did. Not Genesis, but another radio station. It really caused a lot of problems for me. So I just want to let you know that it was clear to me. It was clear to me that it was likely to be an inside job. And you mentioned the fertilizer plant explosion in Texas. Well, I thought the same thing. I thought it was coincidental that they were timed pretty close to each other. And as soon as that happened, as soon as I was off the air, I picked up the phone and I called the manager of a fertilizer plant here in Missouri. I called him up. He's a friend of mine. And I called him and I said, what's the likelihood of this happening? And he said, it could happen, but it's pretty unlikely. And so I actually went down there. I went down to the fertilizer plant and I looked around, and it's difficult. It really is difficult to have an explosion. So I think was also
I worked at a place that used ammonia to keep cooling, and I think there's a lot of volatile ingredients that are coming together under one roof to produce a product to sell to, like farmers, or for, you can have an ammonia leak in a meat plant if it goes off, it could take the roof of the building off. There's always a risk factor in any kind of manufacturing where you have big, and I'm thinking where you're in the agriculture hub there. And I can only imagine with like you mentioned, your fertilizer plant in your backyard, or your packing plant, anywhere where you have ammonia, or anywhere where you have chemicals or potash or phosphates coming together, you're having a volatile blend, like I said, under one roof. But that stuff has to be watched very, very carefully. Now, without going on the conspiracy tangent here, with one of the first responders was caught with pipe bombs in the news. They claim,
right?
And was he there before, or did he know to respond because he's the one who put it there? Who knows?
Well, I know back in the 1950s, there was an explosion of a flour mill. A flour mill. And, you might say, how is it possible that if you're grinding wheat into flour, there could be an explosion? Well, if you have fine particles of dust in the air, anything, it could be aluminum dust, it could be flour dust, it could be fertilizer dust, it could be wood dust. If you have a lot of that in the air, and if you have a large enough spark, you can ignite that into an explosion. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And flour mills have exploded over the years, not just one, but several of them in the United States. So, yeah, that can happen. But I talked to the manager of this fertilizer plant, and he's been doing this for about 20 years. And they take precautions. And by the way, these fertilizer mixing plants are everywhere. Everywhere. So if you think that your community is free from a fertilizer mixing plant, that may not be the case. So if you have a farm supply place that sells fertilizer in bulk, and they have these little buggies that will haul away 2, 3, 4, 5 tons of fertilizer, they mix it right there. And that's one of those fertilizer plants. So you might have one of them right near you. Seriously. So keep that in mind. And as you drive by, did you know that it was there? Now that you've got something to look for, but did you know it was there before? So think about that. Frank, let's talk about junior exploration companies, junior mining companies. Is this something that tell us where you think they are right now? Is it time to look at them?
Well, I think they're in the basement, and I think when times were good, they had a lot of exploration dollars to invest in their projects. And there are companies that they went up to like $10, $12 a share, and they're trading at $2 now. And I think if people were to take a look at these as well too, there's probably a potential there to realize a gain. And a lot of these issues are also baby throwing out with the bathwater as well.
Frank, hold that thought. Frank Underhill. We'll be right back. We're talking with Frank Underhill, CEO, UndurhillSecurities.com, UndurhillSecurities.com. And just before the break, we were talking about junior exploration companies, junior mining stocks, and we talked about the price being in the basement now, and price has fallen. Frank, what are the junior miners doing right now that would make them attractive to someone who might consider jumping in? Did we lose Frank?
And they've done work, and they've come up with, grades that warrant further evaluation and further study. But everything is very like priced, I think, below wholesale, in my opinion.
Okay, so what are they? If you were to look at a junior miner, what would you look at on paper that would help you make a decision whether it would be attractive at these prices, since silver is below $24 an ounce?
The grades, and of course, it's a risk, but but people should take a look at what the grades are, what the price is, and then more importantly, don't invest in the company, you invest in the management.
Well, how do you distinguish between the management and the company?
Because you want to see who, if it's somebody who's the president of a big miner and they're on the board of this junior, that's definitely something to take a look at.
Okay. All right.
You don't invest in the company, Vincent. You invest in the management.
Okay. I'm thinking back to my education, and I'm thinking back to ethics. I'm thinking back to morals, and it kind of sounds like that's where you're going.
Yes, yeah. That's and track records, and basically there's a lot of these companies like littered around them. A lot of them even have cash on hand still to weather this out, and even like producers are trading at prices that a high flying junior was trading at when it was at its highs, and you even go with production as well.
Frank, I understand that some mines have collapsed. Some major mines have literally slid, and the gold is buried under so much earth that it may not be practical to get it out now. How is that affecting the price of mining stocks?
Well, I think with a situation like that, it would probably put the company out of business. I don't know of a name per se where this has happened to, but need to, there's always, mining risk goes with any kind of risk when you're investing in a mining company. That's why people should be looking at companies that have multi-mines in production. So if one collapses, like what you're referred to, there's operations to keep it going. Magnico Eagle had a water problem with one of their mines, their Star property, but they seem to be remedying that, and they're probably going to put that back into production as well too. But I think generally, and again, that's why you got to go with experience and management. Mining is very cost intensive, and it has a lot of pitfalls, and of course these mining stocks move up, of course, when the earnings are good, when they're producing, like any company, whether it's making computers or selling a product, they rally on earnings. And right now, what you're seeing in the mining sector, you're not seeing earnings, or you're not seeing earnings growth, which is another catalyst for appreciation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, are you saying that if a person is an investor, they should consider looking deeper into mining?
Absolutely. I believe that, and that's, of course, I'm biased to that sector, but people should be looking at. Look, I'd be more afraid to invest in into a stock where you're paying a high premium in, as opposed to buying something that's trading at a discount. In some cases, fire sale deep discount.
Frank, can you offer your newsletter on this broadcast? Okay.
Feel free to call, and I'll put you on my subscription.
Okay. I'll tell you how to do that when we come back on the other side, and I'd like to know about defective auto parts and no warranties when we come back. Frank Underhill's with us, and if you'd like a copy of his research reports or his newsletters, they're free, absolutely free. 702-987-5449, 702-987-5449. UnderhillSecurities.com. And Frank Underhill was a trusted advisor of the late Bob Chapman. Bob Chapman would call Frank Underhill about 5 times a day, literally before broadcast, to get the latest information on what's happening in various sectors of the market. So Frank Underhill, when Bob lay near the end of his life, I'm talking literally within 2 days of the end of his life, he and I were on the phone, and he wanted me to contact Frank Underhill. And I didn't know who Frank Underhill was at the time, but with a little bit of research and a little bit of phone calling, a man finally called me and put Frank and me together. So that's how Frank Underhill is on this broadcast. 702-987-5449 if you'd like to chat with Frank Underhill after the broadcast. Frank, the IRS, there's a post. The IRS scrutiny went beyond the Tea Party, targeting groups of conservatives. And the IRS did did special treatment provided special treatment for people who were involved with words like Tea Party, Patriot, Progressive, 9/12 projects in their names. So they provided extra attention for groups with those words in their name: Tea Party, Patriot, Progressive, 9/12 project. And they looked at organizations with tax-exempt status. Well, early on, when we formed USAPrepares.com LC for limited corporation, we decided that we would not be a tax-exempt company. We would not be tax-exempt. We would pay taxes. And the reason for that is we did not want to be limited in any way, shape, or form by agreeing to not discuss or not say certain things in favor of being tax exempt. So we are willing to pay taxes so we can say whatever we want. And we do. And we do. So those are some of the thoughts that I have about the Internal Revenue Service. And also, they say in a statement today, they say that the IRS is stating that they believe that this activity, this criminal activity by the IRS was due to a couple rogue IRS employees. Do you believe that? I don't believe that for a second.
I don't believe that for 1 minute either. Absolutely not.
Right. So what we need to do is, the people involved and their lieutenants, the people who reported to those involved need to be fired. All of them. Every single one, without any pension, kind of like a dishonorable discharge, and all the benefits that you receive with a dishonorable discharge, because that's what this is. There is no difference between a dishonorable discharge and what these guys have done. And the same with Missouri. The same with those who gave out the names and confidential information from concealed weapons holders from the state of Missouri. That'd be me. I'm one of them. They gave out my name as well as about 185,000 others. Gave them out to the feds illegally. They committed a crime. They need to be in jail. For how long? At least a lifetime, in my opinion. Frank, defective auto parts, no warranties. Let's talk about that.
Go ahead there. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, let me say this. I look at this guy in the White House, okay, Barack Obama. He's got his feet up on the furniture, and I look at that and I say, what kind of a signal is that sending? Have you ever seen a student put his or her feet up on a desk in school and not be reprimanded by the teacher? Has it ever happened? If it has, I am certain that the teacher said, Johnny, Susie, get your feet off the furniture right now. I'm sure that happened. Now, the leader of the free world, supposedly, Barack Obama, has got his feet up on the furniture and is sending a bad signal. Now, I liken that to what is happening to the United States Post Office. And let me just say this. I bought 12 absolutely magnificent, very heavy hanging glass fixtures that were in a restaurant on the East Coast. I mean, they were magnificent. I bought them all. I bought them on eBay, and I had them shipped, and they were packed in foam. I mean, these were really well packed, and they came in 2 cartons, and they marked heavy. They were marked glass. They were about 60 pounds per box. Very heavy, double boxed, lots of packing, brass, and very heavy glass globes or shades, about maybe 18 inches in diameter each one. Not replaceable. They were vintage manufacture, American made, probably in the 50s and 60s. The post office was able to break 7 out of 12. They broke 7 out of 12. And I wanted them for the farmhouse, and I needed them all. And so what do? They give me a refund for the broken ones after after a lot of effort on my part. So their attitude is they can toss these things around. They're marked fragile on every single side, top and bottom of every box. They still manage to break them. That is just the way we do things around here. If it says fragile, then that means you throw it, right? If it says fragile, it means you step on it. That means you walk on it. That means you put it on the bottom of the truck. Okay, that's the post office. Now, I also bought a phone system. I wanted to upgrade our phone system at the farmhouse. And I bought a Northern Telecom Meridian phone system on eBay. 10 stations. I don't need 10 stations, but it sure is nice to have some spares. And I don't need a lot of lines. But this is capable of 16 stations, 6 lines. I wanted to have music on hold and voicemail. Okay. So I bought them. Post office was able to break 2 of the 10. 20%. They broke 20% of the phones. These phones are almost indestructible, but they were able to break them. Okay, so I bought some china to replace and add to some of the pieces that Mrs. Finelli and I have had for the last 30-something years when we've been married. And found it on eBay, bought a whole bunch. The post office was able to break 2 cups, a gravy boat, and a plate. Yep, and it was really well packed, but they were able to do it. I bought about 1,000 mugs for the Get Prepared Expo that say USA Prepares on one side, Big Country 99 on the other. I've got some that say USA Prepares on one side and GCN on the other. Well, they were able to break a whole case of them. How do they do that? How do they break a case? They put it on the bottom, they toss it. They say, here, this one's light and it's heavy, and they toss it from guy to guy. And the guy's expecting a light one, it's heavy. He drops it, boom, there goes a case of mugs. Now, who pays for all this? Do you know what it's like fighting with the post office? It's horrible. It's horrible. Anyway, so that is the status of our attention to detail and how much we care about customers. Now, that goes, let's talk about defective auto parts. We have at the farm a 1999 Dodge Cummins turbo diesel half-ton truck. 3/4-ton truck, I should say. It's a great truck. It's got, almost 300,000 miles on it. We use it every day. It's in excellent shape, except the dashboard has cracked. It's actually, chunks are missing that you could put your entire fist through where parts of the dash are missing. And is it ours? No. Every single person I know that has a 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002, they all have the same problem. Every one of them. How can that be? How can that be? They are all defective. Now, they've cracked and chunks just fall in. Chunks. I'm saying, how can I explain this? You could put a coffee cup in the holes that appear in these cracked dashes from the top. Just drop coffee cups in there. They're that big. Easily coffee cup size holes. Well, why is it that Dodge didn't say, geez, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry that our dash has failed. The trucks are still good, but the dash has failed. How about if we make an appointment for you and we replace it for you for free? How about that? Have they done that? No. No, they haven't done it. How about every Mercedes ML320? 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002. Every one that I know of has a defective gas gauge. That means the gas gauge does not work. Every one that I know of. Well, did they send a letter to the owners? No. Did they say, I'm really sorry that the gas gauge doesn't work? Nope. But they will charge you several $100s to repair it. Several hundred to repair the gas gauge. How about in the Mercedes ML320? A great vehicle. It really is. The window switches fail. Why is that? Have they sent a letter to all of the owners saying, we're really sorry. This is we messed up. Bad design. Substandard materials. We're sorry that you can't put your windows up or down. We're sorry they're stuck where they are. We'd like to fix that for you. Do they do that? No. Now, would they say, yeah, but the vehicle's old? Yeah, it is. But it happens to all of them. It's bad design, bad engineering, bad implementation, bad manufacturing. Makes me crazy. And does anybody ever expect that an automobile won't last 10, 12, 15 years? Have you ever bought one thinking that it's disposable? I have not. Frank, when we come back, let's talk about prices, gasoline prices and food prices. We'll be right back. Frank Underhill's with us. And, I was thinking about, many years ago. And I had this 1994, and by the way, I still have it, a 1994 full-size Chevrolet Blazer. And it's a 6.5-liter turbo diesel. They only made about 500 of these, and in the Blazer. But they made other vehicles with the 6.5 turbo diesel. And at the time, we had two of them, and ultimately we had three of them, Suburban and two Blazers. And what happened with the Blazer is you drive along, and all of a sudden the engine would quit. No warning. It would just stop. The engine would stall. And it wasn't like it would hesitate, stumble, and then stall. It would be like a binary switch or an on-off switch. It would just stop. And when it stopped, you'd lose power steering, and you'd have one application of the brake before you had no brakes. Simple as that. You would lose control of the vehicle. And so I contacted the dealer, and they said, okay, we'll look at it. About a $4,000 repair. I called General Motors, and they said, we're not going to help you. You're the only one that has this problem. I said, actually, no, I'm not. I have two of them, and they have the same problem. Ultimately, I had three of them. And all three of our vehicles, the two Blazers and the Suburban, they're all 1994. They all had exactly the same problem. Chevy said, nah, it's nothing we can do. You're the only one that has this problem. It must be you. Okay, so finally, instead of doing the right thing, instead of helping me, I spent $4,000, get one of them fixed up. And then I find out 2 years later that General Motors has a extended warranty, 11 years, 110,000 miles on the fuel injection system because they all have the same problem. But in the meantime, I was so aggravated with General Motors. I was talking to a colleague on the phone, and I was looking out the window in Virginia at this red 6.5 turbo diesel Blazer. I said, I feel crapped on. Hold on. I got to go. And then the next thing I did was I registered the domain name, crappedon.com. And I was going to use it especially, and dedicate it toward those people who have products that are just like that 6.5 turbo diesel, and ultimately like the Mercedes ML, and ultimately like the Dodge with all the cracked dashboards. So maybe that's something that we could do. Maybe we could use crappedon.com as a forum to discuss all of these lousy products that are manufactured by lousy intentioned companies here in America that are just trying to rip us off. What do you think, Frank?
Oh, wow. Nothing surprises me. Nothing surprises me, but these things always seem to break down after the warranty expires for some reason.
I think that I would not be able to sleep at night if I were an engineer and I designed a shoddy product. I would not be able to sleep at night. I would not be able to accept my paycheck. I would not be able to work for a company that says, look, hey, Vinny, hey, that's a really good design you have. Now, let's take out most of the good features of that and let's make it a marginal product. And then we can be almost as bad as the worst company making the product. We'll be just like one step better than they are. I mean, why would anybody want to be involved in a company that has that as a design? Why would anybody want to be associating with someone who puts his feet up on the furniture? I don't get it. It's all bad form. It's all bad manners. It's all. It's like the banks. It's like the banks who engineer these teaser rates. A teaser rate is designed to lull you into thinking that you're going to get something that you're not. It is a lie. It's a lie. Oh, jeez. I hit my own button. Frank, if you'd like to get in touch with Frank Underhill, 702-987-5449, 702-987-5449. Hey, Frank, next time, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to talk so much. I'm not going to do it.
Have a good week, Vincent.
Hey, Frank, thanks so much for being with us. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. Honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you. And someday maybe I'll tell you again about the press release we did in 1980 with Bert Bertones.